something. I don't know. Thanks again. And as my little plug for the evening, I am selling these fancy things for $5-ish or whatever sounds like a good idea to you. Also, if anyone wants to help me draw some more body parts, that's an option and could get you a discount. Talking to me anyway could probably also get you a discount, but whatever. And even if you don't want to buy one, I really like talking to people, preferably one-on-one and not like this. So please come say hi. I like that. I like you. And there's so many good people in this room that I can't imagine how good everyone I haven't met yet is. This one, some of you have read. This will also be the Cafe Zippy nostalgia portion of the evening. This one, some of you read on the interwebs. Also, so tomorrow is my mama's birthday, and I am lucky enough to have a good relationship with my mother. So wooing is acceptable. That's good. Thank you. Thanks for starting that. My mom sent me this really cute text message this morning because she does that more than I do, I think. And it said, "I hope you have a good time tonight, heart, heart, heart." I don't even know how to make those hearts on my phone, but she does. This is a somber poem that makes reference to her, which some of you have read on the interwebs. And to warm myself up for it, it's called Gasoline. My mother told me this story once about gasoline. We were riding this jeepney bus in the Philippines, riding past this bay when she passingly said, "Your Lola, grandmother, used to walk miles here for rice." Half expecting her to be like, "Uphill, both ways." She told me how during one occupation, people used to dive here into sunken boats just to retrieve rice, because the good rice was rationed or hoarded and the fields were occupied or destroyed. But even this rice was covered in gasoline, so they would rinse, and they would rinse and rinse with soap, hoping just to get rid of the smell. This should not surprise me. This story, how used I am to begging destruction for something to eat, to seeking sustenance from deceit. I was born here after my parents moved from one colonized land to another, from an opulent, lopsided dictatorship to the quietly raging Reagan 80s, hoping to give us a better education. So I was taught here, at schools where the Philippines wasn't even mentioned until one brief high school lesson on America's minor wars and the obligatory moment in college sociology. This smells like gasoline all over my history. And in my name, Mary, Pauline Diaz, the saints and surname, a stamp from the Spanish, my tongue sealing my family badge in a letter that doesn't even exist in the Tagalog alphabet. This tastes like gasoline. Like every time my dry throat chokes model minority, it smells like when my father, who grew up bilingual, asks me to grammar check his English. He doesn't even trust himself anymore. I still see it there, how ladies longing to be here by bleaching soaps, and they rinse, and they rinse, and they rinse. You know, they covered up that gasoline rice with grated coconut to cover up the smell they couldn't seem to wash out. Maybe to make it taste like their own land again. I grew up eating sticky rice with grated coconut, wrapped in banana leaves, bound up in string, and thought of this as the taste of slow mornings in my parents' homeland. I tell myself now, there's no more gasoline. I tell myself we are done eating from sunken boats. And then I wonder, what if my Lola and the divers hadn't covered up the gasoline, but lit the rice on fire? Gasoline grains turned flames ablaze, a light, a signal flare slicing across the bay to say we will not settle. We will burn the hand that feeds us if it feeds us falsely. We will fight to keep your poison from our bellies. We will not crawl on them just to chase your sunken boats. And then I remember that if they lit the fire as when they've lit the fires, they would still be left hungry and wanting. So instead they covered up the gasoline and we're still left hungry and wanting. sad but sentimental crib. Themes for the evening. So this one, some of you have heard before, but not many of you. So a year ago, last summer, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I live in Seattle, and she lives in Colorado. So this is a little bit about that. The great thing is, she's in remission now. I have other updates that will come after some lines in the poem. But yeah, so I got to hang out with her last week, and so this is kind of my like sentimental family portion of the evening, I guess. So, more heavy stuff. It's called In the Company of Ashes. Dear big sister, this is for you and the new thing you've been living with, even if I don't really like this new thing you're living with, because it happens to be some weird disease that happens to kill people sometimes. But right now it's closer to you than I am, being a time zone and 14 years apart, and you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. You've got like a kid and a half, and I've got awkward dating. You're east of the Rockies, I'm west of the Cascades, but we still do share this one night sky. A thin black blanket with stars for air holes, and tonight's the spaces for breaths are longer because it's Perseus. And it's perfect. Because you and I have never shared a sight like this before, and the truth is, some things are just best discussed over a meteor shower. So let's pretend these mountain ranges are just the cup holders in your car, and since we've always been too close to city lights to see the storm, we'll brave and crane our necks somewhere less familiar. As you drive into the wild, I remember the unique humor found in the mountain roads, because there's nothing more absurd than expecting every turn to throw you off a cliff, except maybe the absurdity of fearing it. The drive at first is silent until you rehearse the feelings of the words to yourself. I babble to cover up the spaces where your voice might disappear. Both the silence and the noise are just bad functions of our fear. But finally, we'll find some messy place to slow it all down, and it is silence. Flaming rocks will speak for us at first. They're the only elegant things uttered this night, and so they coax our lips open like tails of burning sand that must be spit out. And when they rip us up, you know you do not need complete sentences. Just shoot around like the stars, key words like cancer, and I'll pretend to understand, and I hope you take deep breaths while I sing you these cliches. You're the strongest person I know. You have an attitude that will save your days. You are far from being alone, because I mean them. Even if I have trouble believing them, I try to get there by speaking how breathing words on things seems to bring them into life. But when you're two gaping cup holders away, it's hard to believe that any of this is any more real than some blazing sky my mind has driven you to. Like how outer space is huge and midnight is late. I know this, I've heard it all, but it is so far, so far. So tell me the things you haven't meditated in your mind. Tell me the things you were too scared to say, like, what if, and I don't know, and I'm afraid, and maybe the stars will just nod their nods back at us. Maybe we can just sit together, listening, until they turn into the dawn. One more for you. Some of you heard this when I was here last time. I want to thank you for being excellent company, and for letting me do this, and for sharing what you've got, for letting me be sappy all the time, for letting me tell you about my family, for letting me show you pictures of my sister's second and not first and a half child who she had. If you're interested, come see me during the break. He's in my backpack. The pictures are, the child is not in my backpack. That would be unsafe and highly unrecommended. But he's so cute that it's tempting. This one is about love and stuff, but it's also just about good company. It's called Ribs. Sometimes I imagine Adam and the look on his face upon noticing Eve's sleeping body beside him in the mud. Worn out from the hard work of becoming, her diaphragm rising and falling rising and falling to the rhythm of a quiet snore, with a roll and the wind of a tide hitting shore, with a force and the depth of a slight roar, like any other beast, but somehow one he felt safe around. And I imagine, upon noticing this, Adam must have proclaimed, "Damn!" Lucky for Adam, I think, who did not grow up watching Disney films and expecting someone to save his life. Instead, he grew up independently, yet contentedly, freely beaming at the mist on his skin and the sounds of creeping things speaking to each other, without anyone stopping his laughter, and yet without anyone quite like himself at all. So Adam learned by surprise that if you could be cut open and give up a piece of the gate that keeps your heart and breath so safe, you might be surprised by the one thing you can't seem to name. You might find yourself across from some being so unlike yourself, and yet a part of yourself, naked and unashamed. You provided a bone. She provided a home for the rest of humanity and an ocean contained in her belly. We would swim out gasping for air one at a time, again and again, the same way, the same repetitive emerald grasses spring up next to the sun, again and again, the same way creation doesn't tire of the same great thing, yet again and again the same way, with minor adjustments. And when there are two of us, light hits our eyes in ways that are different, and these minor things no longer seem so small. Adam shows Eve a new freckle on her body. Eve shows Adam the view from a hill in central Eden. Wonder doubles. Too much to carry alone. And sometimes blinds the fact that pain does that too. Sometimes I imagine Eve and wonder if she realizes what she did for humanity. She shared it and created the concept of good company. Someone with the same sensitive skin, toughened by different calluses and wounds, someone with the same hunger and thirst, but for a different kind of berry, someone to behold, someone to be held, and someone who holds and beholds you even when you don't expect a thing.